Hello and welcome to my first video tutorial. In this tutorial I will show you how to set up the Source SDK so you can make your own maps in the Hammer editor. Right, what you need to do first is you need to load up your Steam account, which I here, and you need the game you want to make maps for. You need to have it installed. As you can see here, I've got Half of 2, Episode 1, 2, Left 4 Dead, Portal, Counter-Strike Source. You need to run these games before running Source SDK or you'll get an error box pop up. Right, you need to go to Tools and install Source SDK. Once this is installed, all you have to do is launch it. Right, you'll get this window pop up. Select the engine you want. You've got 3 to choose out of, but the majority of them are in 2009 version of the Source engine. You've got all the games in here. Right, I'm gonna map for Half to Episode 2, but the layout of the software is exactly the same for all of them, just different materials and props. So when you learn how to make it in this, you'll be able to make it in others. Right, once you've selected your current game, load up Hammer Editor. You will have this window pop up and a manifest bar, which will be on the right hand side. I've disabled it because I don't use it much. Right, once you've got this window loaded up, you go File, New, and it will show you these 4 screen elements. When you first start up the Source SDK Hammer Editor, they might all be in a window. Maximize the window and hit Control A to auto size all the screen elements so they're equal size, and that point there is in the middle of your screen. Right, as you notice down here, there's a Snap-on Grid 64. That is massive. So what you want to do is you want to lessen the size by using the square brackets. Left square bracket to reduce the size, right square bracket to increase the size. You either want it on 16 or 8. I tend to use those. I'll go into more detail about sizes of walls, floors, etc. in my next tutorial when I teach you to use the tools to make a room and a corridor. Right, the tools you will have at your disposal are down the left hand side. You'll be using these all the time. I'll go into more detail about these tools in later tutorials. Right, these tools, the top tool is the selection tool. You use that to select any brushes, props, entities, overlays, etc. in your level. I found the easiest way of selecting the stuff is to use this and use the camera to click on them. To navigate the camera around, you hover your cursor over it and push the Z key. You get this little crosshair up here, and you can use WS and D to navigate the camera, and it's a lot easier. Use your mouse to turn, and it's a lot easier to view your level from different angles doing this method. Press the Z key again to get out. Right, the magnifying glass is you use it to zoom in on any prop and use it in the camera, but I found it's a lot easier to use the selection tool, and without clicking anything, just zoom in and out using the mouse wheel up or wheel down in each of the windows. The camera tool lets you select a point in the level when you Like if your level's really populated and you want to zoom in on a specific area, you use the camera tool. You click, drag. That's your camera. The drag in is which direction you want it to look in. It's looking from that in the center now, as you can see in the different views. This is your top view, your side view, and your front view. As you notice, I've got the camera tool still selected, and I'm moving around the level and it's still moving. I very rarely use this tool because I always use the camera to navigate. The entity tool is what you use to put in entities into the levels. So props, like doors, trains that you use to move elevators and moving platforms. They're all in there, along with sprites, lasers, teleports. You play a star, it's all in here, and I'll go into more detail with that in later tutorials. Below you've got the block tool. Use the block tool to create every wall, floor, etc. in your game or your level that you're creating. Also, I suggest using that when making this skybox, and make sure your level is tight, airtight. There is no holes in your level, otherwise your compile time will be horrible and you'll get errors in the game like water not rendering properly, glass, like cube maps, all that sort of good stuff that won't render properly. Sometimes it will even show you in the compile window that there's a problem in your map. Before pushing any key, scroll up and down it to make sure there are no errors with your props or anything that's making it impossible for either the map to compile, or you're going to be missing like a chair in the game because you've not gave it the right properties, and I'll go into that in more detail in my later tutorials. Underneath you'll have a toggle texture application. That there is to apply textures to specific faces, or the same texture you can use it to replace all the textures. And I'll go into more detail in that later. Underneath it you've got apply current texture. That will apply the texture to every face of the selected brush. I don't use that at all unless I am creating a brush that you're going to see all the faces of. Underneath you'll have the decals. The decals are blood splats, bullet holes, scrapes in the wall, windows, all that sort of stuff. But there is a problem with that you can't change the size of the decal. When you plant it down, it's going to be there, it's going to be on. You've got nothing, you literally can only move it around your face, you cannot do anything else with it. Underneath you've got the overlays. That's a similar way to decals, except in this one you can apply it to displacements. You can choose which faces it covers. You can resize, and you can plonk them literally anywhere except on props. The clipping tool is basically a cut tool. You can round off corners with it, you can cut out windows, you can cut out door frames, and I will go into more detail with that later on. Underneath you've got a vertex tool. I'll create a simple brush to show you this. Clicking on the vertex tool, you see all the vertices shown around. You can see them through there, and you can see them in each camera. The yellow blocks move the whole face. So using this yellow block will move this face all the way in, that will move the other face all the way in or out, etc, etc. These white ones only move specific areas. Like clicking on this, it will only move that line. Clicking on this will move one of these lines around here, which I'll demonstrate now. It's great to make slanted roofs, so you could just do it like that. And you can move this in and out depending on what you want. So let's move that like that, and let's make a dodgy one. So there you go, and then you click the selection tool and it will apply. To revert back the changes you've just made, Control Z and it'll go back to normal. I hope you've liked the first tutorial. I'll go into more depth detail later on in my second tutorial on different textures, how you apply them to walls, how you move them around, and how you create doors and walls and corridors, so you can get started on a basic room. Thank you for watching my first tutorial.